Randomness? It's a girl thing. Planning your entire future with a guy you've only spoken 3 words to? It's a girl thing. Online shopping problem? It's a girl thing. A full camera roll? It's a girl thing. Going to the bathroom together? It's a girl thing. You name it. It's a girl thing.
Hi and welcome back to the It's a Girl Thing podcast. It's Kate, if you didn't already pick up on that for like the 9th time. But today we're back and we have a new episode to talk about, moving away from home. And to be completely honest, it is literally 1 o'clock on Sunday and this episode's going to go up at 7. If that doesn't say that I didn't really want to record this, I don't know what does. But this podcast isn't just about creating a space for you guys to feel safe and you to be a part of this community, but it's a space for me as well, a space for me to navigate my new experiences, navigate the hard stuff, and have people to talk to about it, possibly have been through or are going through the same things. I've been here for about a week now, and it's hard. Like, it isn't bad. Not by any means, like I'm fully set up in my room and everything like that, and I've made a few friends. But it doesn't feel real yet. Like, I'm living on my own and I'm doing my own food, like my own meals. But nothing about this feels fully real yet. It all just feels very temporary. So yeah, I'm in a very weird stage of life right now. And I want to be real with you because it's not easy. It's not difficult either. It's just different. I'm looking forward to it getting easier in terms of being away from home, but my study stuff's only going to get harder. I am someone who struggles a lot with anxiety. If you haven't already picked that up now, or if you're joining us for the first time, I'm so excited that you're listening in. But I struggle with a lot of anxiety, and that definitely came out and came to play with moving away from home. I am only about 2.5 hours, give or take, away from my hometown. So it's not too far, but it's far enough that I can't just and don't just go home every other weekend. And everybody, I feel like, gets a bit scared for like starting uni and things like that because obviously new classes, new studies, it's going to be harder, and it's actually you're studying for what you're going to do for the rest of your life, or at least until you choose to change direction, etc. But me, I was excited for the uni part of it because I am studying medical imaging, which is what I knew I wanted to do, And so I was super excited to get into my studies and finally learn the things that I actually wanted to learn. But I think for me, the scary part was actually just leaving home, leaving the room I've grown up in, bringing my stuff and having to set up all over again and almost like start a new life. I have a very good relationship with my parents, and my mum and I are really close. So moving away from like that support, like they've been a great support moving, and still still talk to my mum and dad every day. But it is so weird because you go from being really, really close with my family and things like that to being by myself all day. Well, not all day, but by myself in my room all day. I think my moving experience is also a bit different because as opposed to a classic university, I'm at like a polytechnic university. And so if you don't know what that is, the tertiary study that I'm doing, there are only a certain number of bachelor's degrees that you can do there, and there are some more special ones. So it's like nursing, there's an accounting, a sports medicine, sports science, and then medical imaging, and the rest are like certificates and lower level like degrees and certifications. Whereas universities are just bachelor's degrees. For the most part, all the ones that you'll go there for are bachelor's degrees. So because I'm at a polytechnic, like at a polytech, it means that there's a smaller number of people who go there, and most of them are usually local, because it's people who want to have some further education under their belt, but they don't want to have to go to a full university setup. They can do it local to home, and you can do it at like any age of your life. But for me, there's only 3 places I could study medical imaging in the country, so I had to choose. And I ended up where I ended up, and it wasn't about the location, it was about this is where I could study it. And because of that, there are no uni halls here. Like most of our universities have like set halls that you go into for first year, and there's heaps of people there. You've got a little room, you have like communal bathrooms, they have food, you like it's a catered hall for the most part, and you get a lot of opportunity to meet friends. You've got the big O weeks. We don't have that here. We have O week, but it ain't O week. It is like get to know everything week. Whereas O week in some of the big cities is wild, like wild, wild, which I'm sure I'll see from my friends who are in the big cities. But there's no halls here, so it's even harder to make friends. And I don't have a problem with putting myself out there and making friends, but it is definitely harder because I'm in a hostel style setup. So it kind of looks like a two-story motel. And then there's one big communal kitchen, and we have to like cook for ourselves. And that's cool. I like that. I like cooking for myself, don't get me wrong. But it's harder because you don't go down and have meals with everyone around the same time. You don't have the compulsory ways to meet people. And then I've just got my big double room to myself with my ensuite. So I'm really kind of just set up here, and I don't really need to go out of my room as much. I don't know. I feel like maybe with halls I probably would have had better opportunities to meet people. But I have made a few friends here, so that's a start, and I'm sure it's only week one. It can only get better from there. Moving day. I wanted to talk about this because I must admit, up until the day of, I was an anxious wreck. I felt physically sick every day for about a week, or the 5 days leading up to the Saturday that we moved. And I felt so sick and so like overwhelmed. Like the entire day before we left, I was crying on and off all day because I was so anxious and so overwhelmed, overstimulated. I didn't know what to do next because I didn't know what was coming. But once we got in our motorhome, because that's what we were driving to transport stuff, once we started driving on our way, my anxieties kind of disappeared, which is a little bit weird. They didn't like fully go away, but they mostly like dissipated, and it meant that I no longer felt sick, which was actually nice change. And then we got here and I got set up. For some reason, I wasn't as anxious anymore. And I think that was because in my mind I'd done the hardest part, which was leave. That takes me back to like the day before I left, which was a Friday. The last few days that I had at home, I spent a lot of time like catching up with friends because obviously you're gonna be leaving, you're gonna be doing all these things and moving away and not seeing these people for a good few months at least before I had like holidays. So I hung out with some friends. I cried a lot, and that's okay. But what was so precious was one of my best friends. She's 3 years younger than me. She is one of my favorite people in this entire world. And she has been the one I've been talking to about how scared I was about moving. And it was really, really nice. And her and I were going to have a little girls' night before I left. I went over to her house, and this girl, I walk through her house with her, and I see four of my good friends from like church. I see four of my really good friends sitting outside around their outdoor table, and I just start sobbing because I was already so overwhelmed and struggling with the idea of leaving. So for one of my best friends to have gone and planned this little leaving, like going away thing for me was so nice, especially since I hadn't really gotten the chance to say goodbye to the other girls that were there. And that was really hard. So I'm so thankful for her for doing that. They also got me this beautiful, I've posted a lot on my Instagram, this beautiful bouquet of flowers, a bunch of the girls chipped in it. And I'm like, my little heart, I felt so loved. And then I got home that evening and I was packing, obviously, last minute packing, finishing up. And I couldn't last more than 5 minutes and I had to literally curl up on my bed and literally let the tears fall. I had to let the tears fall in order to be able to keep going because I was just so full of overwhelmed and anxiety feelings. So I actually texted my guy best friend to come, and he was supposed to be coming to go for a drive with me before I left, but he kind of forgot. That's okay. But I messaged him like, please come pick me up. Like, I need to get out of here for a while. And I'm really grateful because he came and picked me up and we went for a drive and we laughed and we talked and I came home and I felt so much lighter. Like I felt like an entire weight had been lifted. So I'm really glad that I got to do that. And I think overall, because of the people I was surrounded by, it made that experience easier. So I posted like a little poll thing, question thing on my Instagram, the podcast Instagram, which you can go follow at It's a Girl Thing Pod. And I asked if people had any questions for like moving out of home for the first time. And the main questions were kind of things like, are you homesick? And my answer to this question is a bit of a weird one. Yes and no. Yes, I'm homesick. I miss the person I'm seeing. I miss my parents. I miss my best friends. I miss my church. Like, I miss the stuff from home. But I'm not, but no, because I'm not homesick to the point where I'm spending my nights like crying, going, I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go home. I am very excited for this opportunity. And I'm very excited for what's to come. But I'm kind of in the transition stage, so it's a little bit more scary and a little bit more homesick at the moment. So I'm looking forward to it hopefully being a little bit less homesick feeling, if that makes sense. Somebody asked if it's odd not knowing many people. This one's interesting because my answer is very specific to what I'm studying. So it is odd not knowing many people. But because of the course I'm going into, the people in my course class are aged 17 through probably, I'm gonna take a guess and say probably about 35, 40 is the max age because it's a course that you can do at any stage of life, and some people come and do it as like a career change. Also, as there's the only 3 locations that you can do it in our country, it means that people have come from all over. A lot of us have had to give up the lives we had, move here for our course without thinking about where our friends were going and what they were doing. We did it for us. So essentially, almost everyone in my course is in the same position. We're all trying to start new lives here and make friends and get to know people. So on the first day, we kind of got to know each other quite quickly because it was like, well, there's no one else here to be like buddy buddy with, except for the people from our clinical centres who we'd met at orientation the week before. So yes, it's odd not knowing many people, especially here at my like hostel, because you have to either put yourself out there to get to know people, or you have to hide away in your room. I'm going to be honest and say I've done a little bit more of the latter. I have been binge watching too much Grey's Anatomy. Far too much Grey's Anatomy. But I may need to do a Grey's podcast episode now, like TV shows, because I have so many opinions. So many. If you love Grey's, please send me a message on Instagram and we'll talk, because I have questions. Somebody asked, what are like the best ways to pack for moving out? My big thing was I own a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. But the only way I knew what to bring was by sitting on my floor. Like, this is with clothes. This is what I did with my clothes. I sat on the floor, I opened a drawer, and I was like, okay, what do I wear? What goes through the washing machine like every week or every couple of weeks? What things do I wear all the time? And that was kind of my way of saying, well, you don't wear this anymore, so why would you take it? So I took all the stuff that I use normally, essentially, what I use every day, what I wore a lot of days. I also watched a lot of like TikTok videos and did a lot of like Googling for what you need, because lots of people have been there and done it before you, and they'll say, well, you don't actually need that, or you do actually need this, or this is something that most people forget. And also, as I'm living in a hostel situation, I've got to cook for myself, clean for myself, do all those things. So I needed like tea towels and food and some cooking utensils. Like some of it's provided, but some of it I wanted to have my own of. So it really was a case of what do I really, really need? But you don't want to bring too much stuff because you can always buy extra stuff later, or next time you go home, bring anything you've left behind up with you because you don't want to bring too much. I probably did bring a bit too much, but most of it will get used, so it's not as much of a problem as it seems. My tips and advice for like your first week, because that's all I can really give advice for at the moment. If you're in a hall, a hostel, or like a shared accommodation or something, leave your door open. Mine is currently shut because I'm recording this and not everybody in the whole facility needs to hear our little podcast chats. But leave your door open. One, it nicely airs out your room. 2, it lets people know that you're an open person and you don't mind having conversations or someone sticking their head round to smile at you. I'm tucked away in the back corner, so it's a little bit harder. My second piece of advice, smile. Like, smile. I know it seems so silly, but if you're walking past somebody you don't know, smile at them. Because they might say, hey, next time they might smile back at you. You never know. It could be a new friend. Third piece of advice, which I know is what I should be doing more of and has paid off when I have done it, but put yourself out there. Because if you don't put yourself out there, how are you going to get to know people and how are you going to make friends? Because you are going to be miserable if you don't make some friends. Because my mum told me, she was saying how if I don't put myself out there and if I don't make friends, all I'm ever going to do in my room is I'm going to be studying or I'm going to be essentially bored or watching like Netflix or Disney Plus, a lot of that too. But I can't study my life away. There's only so much study you can do within reason. And I guess my final thing I want to say, and then we'll just chit chat for a little bit longer, is it's okay for the whole situation to be weird. Like, I have accepted it now. It is weird to be living on my own because I'm not fully alone. Like, there's 70 odd other people in this. There's like 80 rooms or something like that. And I'm not alone. I have a support system. I have my friends, my family, partner, all those things. I've got those things. But it's scary, and it's still gonna be scary. I'm still learning new things. I went for my first big girl grocery shop the other day. I didn't actually end up buying much because my mum stocked me up really, really, really well before she left. So I didn't need to buy much. Just a few little top-up bits and pieces for my plan for the week. If I could give you any piece of advice, it's okay that it feels weird. And if you need to cry about it, cry. I had a little moment last night where I sat on the end of my bed just before I was going to sleep and I cried into my hands. Like, I was like sobbing and I just let that emotion wash over me, because if you don't let the emotion go, it will build up and then you'll become depressed, you'll become overwhelmed, you will just start hating being here and being by yourself. But being by yourself is such a blessing. You get the opportunity to learn more about yourself. You get to meet new people. You get to start afresh. If there's anything that was holding you back in your past before, it isn't holding you back anymore. And you get to study the degree of hopefully your dreams. Because I know for me, I'm pretty sure I've found what I want to do for the rest of my life. Or at least for this part of my life. And it's going to be stressful. And it's going to be busy. But we can do this. I don't know if I'm saying that more for me or for both of us, but we can do this. I hope you know that in all the craziness of the world, you can push through it. And hey, if you're starting intermediate, if you're starting high school, if you're starting university, if you're moving out of home properly after university, if you've been living alone for years, if you're moving in with a partner for the first time, if you're moving into a new home, it's okay for it to feel weird. It's okay for it to feel new. It's okay for it to feel scary. Because at the end of the day, every new experience starts out as unknown. And if we don't step into the unknown, we'll probably never step into some of the best experiences of our lives. So that's, my little moving out chronicles, my little stories about moving. If you've enjoyed the episode, or you enjoy listening to the podcast, or you like having me as your new little bestie, and you like our little FaceTime calls, so to speak, please do leave a review on Spotify. It would mean the world to me because it means more people can come and be besties with us and be a part of our little community. Also, don't forget to go give us a follow on TikTok, Instagram, whatever you have. You'll probably find me there.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode. It's been great having you. If you have any topics you'd love for me to discuss, want some big sisterly advice, or just want to say hey, just reach out to me on Instagram at It's a Girl Thing Pod, and I hope you join us next week. Stay beautiful.